Welcome to Breakthrough Success. I'm your host, Mark Gabberty, the content marketing expert, bringing you 5 new episodes every week where I and top-level guests teach you how to take your business to the next level and achieve your breakthrough. Hello, Breakthrough Success listeners. I just wanted you all to know before the episode actually starts, I've been working a little bit behind the scenes to give you something really special. So a while ago, I wrote my book, Content Marketing Secrets, which helps people create, promote, and optimize their content for growth and revenue. And I just put the finishing touches together to offer that for free to anyone who is interested. So if you want your free copy of Content Marketing Secrets, all you have to do is head over to markgabberty.com/book. Now, let's jump right into the episode. One of the things that is true about many businesses now is that they've embraced digital. This isn't something that is completely new, but one of the things we have to do with digital is be able to embrace it in such a way where we are spreading our message. We're getting more people to know about our products, our brands. So digital marketing has been around for a while, but we're going to take a deeper look at it and give you a bunch of strategies and tactics along the way. So today's guest is the person behind Think Digital, a done-for-you digital marketing service that helps you get more leads, sales, and revenue. Think Digital is the answer for all of your digital training, digital content, and digital ad-related needs. People like Jeff Goins, Michael Hyatt, and Tom Dean are some of the people who frequently go to today's guest for advice. And there are a lot of people who also listen to his podcast to get those incredible digital marketing insights as well. So who exactly is today's guest? Well, today's guest for episode 231 of the Breakthrough Success podcast is none other than Justin Wise. Justin, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Mark, I love it. You're pumped up. You were so energetic. I love it.
Justin, I'm really looking forward to this interview because digital marketing is something that I like to teach a bunch of people to, and I feel like we just need a smarter approach for using all these different tools and platforms that we have. There's just so much wrapped within digital marketing, so we're going to get into that during this episode. But before we do that, I'd like to get some background. So like, why Think Digital, and why also, like, I know you've expanded to like you're doing the Think Digital with Justin Wise podcast. Couldn't mention a name before because I'd give you away as the guest. But can you talk about Think Digital and why you got started?
Yeah, so we really, I believe this was back in 2007. So at another job, really another different world back then. 2007, you would have been what? Like 6 years?
9
years old? Okay, so imagine back when you were 9. Social was just getting started, and I just was really drawn to it. And so I was one of the first in line to have a Twitter account, and I remember I went to this one conference put on by Business Insider, and American Express was one of the sponsors. And this was in some dingy, dark basement in Manhattan. I thought there might have been mafioso in the room next door, but it was this really cool conference that talked about using social media for business purposes. And back then, that was like a super profound idea. And so that really sparked this drive, this desire in me to figure it out. And it took a long time. I didn't launch the business until 2014. So it was 7 years of just being transfixed by this idea that social media, and now what I think we would call digital marketing, it really it's not just, oh, hey, let's do conversation, let's have conversations, let's, post selfies, let's tweet about, the Bachelorette, but it has real implications for businesses when used properly. And so that's really the drive, the desire behind Think Digital as a company. But it took a long time to get there, and now we're just rocking and rolling. So that's kind of a little bit of the why behind Think Digital.
And I mean, to have started in 2007, again, like a lot of things that are available now are not as readily available. Like hashtags were a user created feature. It's not like Twitter came with hashtags. There's just so many things different about social media, and it's just going to continue to grow. And with social media, and like social media is just one part of digital marketing in general. So with all these different growing parts, how can we capitalize on all these different opportunities that pop up? Like Facebook or Twitter have been around for a while, but like Snapchat's a little newer. Instagram's doing a lot of things like Instagram TV. So how can we capitalize on many of these opportunities that digital provides without getting stretched too thin to the point where we're on all of them, but we're not too good on any of them?
Yeah, I mean, this is a super important question, because I think a lot of people come to the table, at least a lot of the folks that we end up talking to, or used to anyway, they think like social is the thing, or they think digital marketing or Facebook ads or Snapchat or Instagram or YouTube, whatever, they think it's the thing. Like, oh, this thing is going to save our business, or this thing is going to make us more money, or this thing is going to catapult us to the next level. And while, those platforms certainly are powerful, what I think a lot of people are forgetting is that you actually have to have something valuable, worthwhile. You have to have a business in order to layer on digital marketing and, broaden your reach, increase your revenue, all that good stuff. So I think a lot of people come to the table expecting digital marketing to do the heavy lifting for them, when really what they need is a sound business. What they need is a rock solid, proven concept. What they need is a service or product that people are willing to pay for, and then digital can come alongside and, pour gas on the fire. That's what digital does. But if you don't have a fire burning in the first place, it doesn't matter how much gas you put on the fire, it's not going to burn any brighter. So I think a lot of folks are in this period now where they're realizing, like Michael Hyatt says, good marketing makes a bad product fail faster. And I like to amend that to say good Facebook ads make a bad service, product, or offering fail faster, because we see it all the time. We have clients who come in, and this is why we're super selective now with our clients, but we used to have it where clients would come in and we would nail our KPIs, we'd nail our objectives, got lead costs for what we wanted to, but no one would buy from our clients. And it's like, you trace it down, well, why won't they buy it? Well, it's because it's a great product. It's not a great product. It's not a service that people are willing to shell out money for. So I think, fundamentally, our approach is, the tactics, which is what digital is. It's tactics, just like billboards or phone books or TV spots or radio ads are tactics. Tactics are great, but strategy is what makes or break a business. And so we really believe that. And again, this is why our criteria for taking on a client these days is pretty sky high, because we need to see that, hey, this is a sound business, period. And if it's not a sound business, then they got some work to do. So, digital marketing, to kind of put a bookend on this, digital marketing is not magic. It simply makes a business more of what it already is. I don't know if that answers your question directly, but that's what I'm thinking.
I mean, I like the idea that like digital marketing just expands what's already there. And there are obviously different ways to expand on digital marketing. It's up to you to focus on just a few of them instead of trying to focus on all of them. You mentioned a digital strategy as something that is very important, and I agree with that. You need a strategy to get the results that you're going after. But when you look at, for the people who you do take in, when you look at their digital strategies, or even for yourself, if you're looking at your own digital strategy, how do you determine the best steps to take? And is there a common theme for like the best steps to take for any digital brand?
I like this question. So basically what we're going to want to do is see, okay, where do you have the most momentum? It's for some clients, when a client comes on, what I want to know is, where's the river already flowing? For some clients, that's going to be, most of them, it's going to be their email list, meaning they have a substantial email list that they've built up over the years. They have decent engagement rates. And so we're going to want to start there. And we're going to start there to say, cool, let's build some audiences from your email list. Let's build some lookalikes from your email list. Let's start priming the pump, maybe do a reader survey there. Some people, like I said, it's going to be their email list. Others, what we're seeing now is more and more is Facebook groups. So some of our clients have really, they have super engaged Facebook groups where they haven't so much focused on, building up an email list, but they have an engaged group of people on Facebook that they can market into. And so long as they've been providing valuable content, they've built up that relational bank account. So we'll start there. And what we'll typically do there is, test out an offer with that group before we go live with traffic. And some people now, what we're seeing more and more is YouTube. And so we're really trying to figure out if someone comes in with a really engaged YouTube channel, outside of doing obviously YouTube ads, which no one is doing right now, by the way. At least no one's doing it super, super well. How can we leverage that YouTube channel in a Facebook ad strategy or Instagram ad strategy? So first step for us is just seeing where's the momentum, where's the river already flowing. And so 9 times out of 10, we'll start there and build from there. And generally speaking, I think that's a great practice for any business listening to kind of, follow and assess, is to say, where's our strength now and how can we build off that? Instead of, being jerked around with all these different trends and, that stuff changes all the time. But I think with your basics, if you've got a good solid email list and you're producing consistent content and you're publishing that content to a public platform like a Facebook or Medium or Instagram or even YouTube, it's getting more and more popular and more important in people's strategy. I think once you start doing those two things, again, build the email list and then publish some content, it makes the rest of the digital marketing journey 100 times easier. What makes it really hard, it just kind of give you kind of a different perspective when, and we don't do this a ton anymore, but when clients come in with nothing, and when I mean nothing, I mean they've got maybe a couple hundred emails on their list, and they really don't publish content. When they come in with nothing, just an idea, we tell them to anticipate at least 3 to 6 months of no traction before they start seeing the ball move. And the danger for people is they come in expecting to be, in those situations anyway, where they come in with nothing and they expect to be internet millionaires overnight. I wish I was making this up. Mark, you've probably talked to some of these folks. But they come in and they want to run ads on a Monday and expect to be millionaires on Friday. And the world doesn't work that way.
And then I think when you see, like, a lot of this has to do with case studies and income reports. When you see someone making like $100,000 a year or even a month, because there are several income reports where those kinds of stuff are reported too, it makes, like, I guess that's where you get the idea of you could be a millionaire very quickly on the internet, but it does take a lot of time to be able to do work that leads to those kinds of income reports. And you were talking a lot about ads. I heard Facebook ads, Instagram ads, the YouTube ads, which are not getting utilized as much as the other two. So one of the things that I want to ask you is whether you prefer going after organic traffic or paid traffic, because I know it's a heavy debate in digital marketing, and what are your approaches for getting each of those kinds of traffic?
So I like organic if you're broke. I like paid if you're not broke. And I've been both. So when I was first getting started, I didn't have money. I was making 30 grand a year when I started the business, and I spent a third of that hiring a coach to teach me how to do this stuff. And so I had no money, none, zero. And so I couldn't spend money on ads because I didn't have it. And so I spent a lot of time, a lot of nights making content, writing posts, making training videos, shooting video ads. Engaging with people. It felt, writing emails, it just felt endless. But what I was trading for in my time, I was saving in dollars. And that's the trade-off usually with organic. You save money, but you spend your time. Now, having said that, when you start getting some traction, people start buying whatever it is that you're selling. Then you get money, and you can use some of that money for paid traffic. And paid traffic obviously is a much quicker way, but with paid traffic, you spend money and you save time. Now, I like doing both of those approaches simultaneously. Obviously, when you have the money to start spending on ads, you're probably going to favor that strategy just because, frankly, it's easier and the results come quicker. But that doesn't mean you abandon organic. I have never once, not ever, abandoned organic. I write to my list probably 3 to 4 times a week. I post organic content on Facebook and LinkedIn probably about the same 3 to 4 times a week. I have monthly trainings. So there's just content constantly coming out of our business. Organic content, because that organic content and what we found and the way it works, and some people this is going to sound like, well, duh, but I'm always surprised at how many people don't use this approach, is we use organic as an incubator for what's going to work on paid. So by the time I get to paid, I know what is already resonating with my audience. And that's really how the two go hand in hand. We call it the content continuum here, but that's how those two go hand in hand for us at Think Digital. Is we do organic because it's twofold. Number one, we want to add value. We don't want to just be noise in the marketplace. There's plenty of that. So there's a thought leadership component to it, even though I hate that term, that's exactly what it is. But, fundamentally, I'm creating content. It's a test lab. So I can see if I'm consistent with my content over the course of 30 days, I know how the market's going to respond to certain ideas and concepts. We keep track of it all. Every piece of content I produce, we keep track of it. We measure it. We know what's getting responses. We know what's not. And so then when it's time for me to make an ad, it's very easy for me to go back and look at our spreadsheet and say, hey, this concept seems to be really resonating with our ideal persona. Let's pull this into an ad. And I don't have to waste time or money wondering and testing that ad because I already know it works. I already know it resonates. And so I think they're just, one of my mentors, Taylor Welch, says, once you start doing paid traffic, paid and organic blend together as one. And he's absolutely right. But if you don't have money, if you're broke, you got to start with organic. And then when you do get money, organic's just got to be a part of your rhythm. This podcast is a great example. You're probably not getting paid. I know I'm not getting paid to do my podcast. You're probably not either. But I do it to stay connected to the market and produce value. And so I know after I do, you've done what? Would you say this is 241?
231.
231? 231 episodes. So Mark, by looking at your stats, which ones are the most popular and which ones are not. That's why primarily we do organic. It's for that reason right there. So I know that's probably a longer way of answering the question, but to me, they go hand in hand. If you're broke, start with organic. And then once you get money, use organic to leverage into paid.
I really like that breakdown for the organic versus paid. It's not like one of them is a winner over the other. When you're broke, just go for the organic, because if your paid traffic doesn't do very well, you're just deeper in the hole. So I really like that idea of how start with organic if you're not making enough to go into paid. And when you do go into paid, it's not like you're relying on paid, you're doing the organic. So I really like that dynamic between the two ways for generating traffic. And I didn't want to interrupt you at the beginning, but you mentioned how you're making $30,000 a year, and about a third of that you put into a coach. Did you like that? That was a really big investment at like any time, but like especially at a time when you're only making 30,000 compared to what you're doing now. So do you feel like the coaching investment was worth it, and what did that exactly do for you? Because like we believe in like investing in our education, self-education, but I'm wondering like what difference the coach made for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably one of the most important events in my entire life. I would definitely put it in the top 10. You know, at the top of that, it's at the bottom of the top 10, right? So top of that list, I have 3 kids, so and I've been married for 12 years, so those kind of claim the top 4 spots, I think. But working with a guy named Casey Graham, who is a friend and a mentor to this day, you know, it was a pivotal moment for me because I never paid anything. I never paid that much money for anything in my entire life outside of a house and a car. And so in many ways I had no grid for it, which oddly enough made it an easier decision. Because, you know, you just, when you make 30 grand a year, you don't like, that's so much money. 10 grand, if you're making 30 grand, that's so much money. You don't have a grid for it. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but you just can't, you're not thinking to yourself like, hey, this is a third of your yearly salary. It just doesn't register. At least it didn't for me. So we worked together for 90 days. And like I said, it was probably one of the most important investments I've made to date in life. There's not a week that goes by that I don't draw on the lessons I learned in those first 90 days. And I was coming in completely green. I knew that, number one, I didn't want, like, I just knew I had more in me than 30 grand a year. And I was 29 at the time, you know, so 30 grand a year for someone just coming out of college, okay. But I was 29. You know, my first son was on the way. I knew my wife wanted to stay at home. And so we had to do something different. And yeah, it was an invaluable investment. I just shudder to think about where I would be. My wife and I joke about this all the time, where I shudder to think of where we would be had I not made that decision. It's part of the reason why I like doing what we're doing at Think Digital, because we get to provide that same experience for people when they invest with us. And, you know, working with an agency like ours it's not like you're not going to find that money in your couch cushions. But we were able to transform businesses in a way that would take, you know, years of a person's time to do it on their own. That's what Casey provided me. And it really was just an invaluable investment, and I would do it 100 times out of 100. And I suppose that's the real answer to the question, right? Would you make the same investment if you could and go back and do it all over again? And I would, 100 times out of 100.
Thank you for giving us that insight, because like for people looking at coaching investments, like they can seem really expensive, especially when it's like $10,000. Some coaches even charging more, but the amount of value you can get out of that is really amazing. I say that because I have a coach who helps me with the podcast, and he makes a really big difference for the show. So that's why I ask a lot more questions about coaching when I hear anyone bring it up. And one of the things that I also want to touch upon is we've talked about what works with digital and some of the mindset and direction that we should approach it. But what do you believe holds most people back from building successful, profitable digital brands?
Oh, how much time we got? Oh my goodness. You know, honestly, man, it actually has nothing to do with digital marketing. It has to do with at least in our experience, I would say the people who have failed, and there have been times where we have failed, I can own that. Thankfully, those blunders happen less and less as the years go by. I mean, we learn from our mistakes, right? So, but the ones that come in and, by this point, our process is pretty locked in. It's proven, it works, it's methodical, it's systematic. So you can put a client in and they come out on the other side, with predictable results. But the ones that struggle or the ones that take longer, they're almost always the ones without a proven concept or idea. And proven concept and idea does not mean, oh, hey, my cousin Joe told me this is a cool idea. Or, hey, Billy Bob down the road said that he would pay me once I got things up and running. It doesn't mean, having a lot of likes on your Facebook page. A proven concept, a proven business, a validated offer means one simple thing. You have something that people pay you for. That's what it means. It doesn't mean someone said, oh, I'll give you my card when. It doesn't mean, I'll pay you this much when, this thing happens. No, it means that someone is actively paying you money for what you do. And sometimes people will say, hey, they'll tell me like, that's a really crass way of looking at it. And I don't know of another way to look at it. And my experience tells me that people who come in with, pie in the sky ideals and these ideas and concepts that haven't been proven, they got a really tough road ahead, and they end up just wasting a lot of time and money. So before you start going to the sexy side of digital marketing, you really have to have, we call it validate before you create. And you have to have a validated offer before you start running ads. Or like I said, we'll run your ads, but you're going to waste money and you're going to waste time, and it's going to be frustrating for everyone involved. So we just really, really, really counsel people, unless they're backed usually by, they're a really well-funded startup. We usually don't work with people until, they have at least 20, 30, 40, 50K a month coming in. To us, that is what consistently means you've got a validated offer. So I would say before you start layering on tactics, have a validated offer. Make sure that people are paying you money every single month for whatever it is you do. And then you can get to the fun stuff, but not before.
I really like the idea of proven concept, and you don't necessarily have to spend so much time creating the product. Like for a book, it could be just pre-order before you write the book. For a training course, it could just be like 4 to 8 videos, nothing really extreme, because if you get people into the minimal viable product, that's when you can really create a bigger product, and more importantly, start promoting it more with all the parts of digital marketing. And obviously you weren't always taking in clients who were making that kind of revenue that you previously mentioned. So I'm wondering if you could share with us and one big challenge that you have faced in your journey, on that road to getting to where you are now, and a powerful lesson you learned during that challenge.
So I think you're asking, how did you get to where you are right now?
Yeah, just some of the challenges.
Okay. Some of the challenges, and by the way, I think your point is really, really good, is that a validated offer does not need to be complex. It doesn't have to be confusing. A validated offer, if you read 4 Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss has a really simple way to validate your offer. And it requires a landing page and some AdWords and an AdWords budget. So this doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to mean people want what you have. That's what I mean. And so some of the challenges, and we face different challenges. We're coming off a month that was probably one of our most challenging months since I started the business. So it's not I mean, the challenges, they're always present. And I think, not to get esoteric here, but to me, that's a really important lesson for anyone who's in entrepreneurship or building a business is that, for the longest time I thought, hey, because we have challenges, that must mean I'm failing. Because we have this challenge or that challenge or this isn't working or this shit's breaking over here, that must mean I'm failing. And the reality is, it doesn't matter how big or small your business is. You will always have challenges. Always. They never go away. They never stop. They just simply take on different forms. And so I don't know if that helps anyone listening, but I know for me, I did not get that lesson until the last probably 12 months. And it's just helped my perspective so much because now instead of thinking like, oh God, I suck because I have problems. Now I can think to myself, no, I'm an entrepreneur and I get paid to figure these problems out. So those two different approaches, oh, I'm the worst, I'm miserable, versus, oh, wow, this is exciting because this is what I do. I solve problems. I'm an entrepreneur. Any entrepreneur listening, that's what you're best at, is figuring out how to solve problems. And so that's just kind of a little aside on challenges. But I mean, the challenges that we had in first starting out, when I say we, there was no we when I first started, there was me. The challenge was like, how do I not devolve into a slobbering, lunatic? Because I'm working all the time and I'm always stressed out and I don't know where the next paycheck is coming from. That was like the big challenge. And the way that I solved that challenge was building recurring revenue into our business model. That was a huge, huge jump for us, is building in recurring revenue. And the recurring revenue allowed me to hire staff and team members. So I wasn't having to work so much. And then I could focus in on the stuff that I really wanted to do. And so I would say like the second phase of challenges was around that, figuring out, okay, what do I like to do? What do I not like to do? What am I best at? What am I not so good at? And then finding team members who liked to do the stuff that I didn't like to do, and got energized by doing the stuff that didn't energize me. And now I would say we're in this third phase where, we're at the stage in our business where the stuff that got us here isn't going to get us where we want to go. And to some degree, that's true of any stage in your business, but it's certainly true now where that old model of, grinding and hustle, which you got to have, especially when you're first starting out, but there comes a certain point where you can't hustle your way to the next level because you reach limits. And those limits are either your own time, those limits are the entrepreneur's energy. Those are usually the two most frequent. It's your time or your energy. You hit limits, you hit financial limits. You can't hire more people. Usually those three are the big ones. There's other limits, but those three that I mentioned usually take care of it. And there comes a point where you have to step back and say, okay, the systems that we've been using, we've outgrown them. And so we have to invest in new systems. And that's what we've been doing the last, I would say, 12 months. It's been really challenging, to be perfectly candid. It's been a real challenge. It's not my natural skill set. It's not where I naturally drift towards, is building systems. So it's required a new level for me, but it's been a great, great ride. It's been hard. It's been difficult. It's been challenging. Not everyone on our team has made it, but we've come out on the other side just investing a ton of time, investing a ton of money in building out systems, but it's certainly the infrastructure we believe that's going to take us to the next level of results for the business.
And one of the things that I like you pointed out is that the challenges, they don't go away. Like some people may think like once you hit 6 figures or 6 figures per month or any kind of income goal, like all the challenges go away. But no matter how much money you make, the challenges are there to just take on different appearances. So challenges are just a part of the journey, and we have to overcome them in order to continue to grow. Challenges, like they do give you that ability to tap into that entrepreneurial problem-solving mindset, which is very powerful. And another thing that's very powerful is reading books, and I read typically as many books as I can get my hands on. So with that in mind, Justin, I'm wondering if you could share with us 3 great books that you believe will have a positive impact on us.
Ooh, I like this question. Here's what I would say. I'm reading a book right now called Willpower Doesn't Work. It's a phenomenal read. It is just blowing my mind. And this is what I was talking about too, where it just kind of came along at a good time, where I realized in my own working life, I can't white knuckle success. It's a byproduct of how you arrange your day. And so this book, I forgot the guy's name now.
Benjamin Hardy.
Sure.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
Did you just Google it there? Anyways, the book is really solid. It helps you. Benjamin Hardy, you got it. He's super young too. He's younger than I am, and but he's just really sharp, great thinker, and he shows you how to set up your environment to facilitate success. Another good book I'm reading right now, it's called The Lazy Man's Way to Riches. That's what it's called. It's by Joe Carbo, but this guy named Richard Gilly Nixon bought the copyright and republished it, which I'm kind of bummed about. It's like this weird out of print book. I think it goes for like 30 or 40. Well, no, actually now it's up to $90. So when I bought it, it was $30 on Amazon. It's just a really good book. I can't even explain it. It's got a hokey title, but if I would have got a hold of this book 10, 12, 15 years ago, I think my entire life would be different.
Wow.
It's really, really good. So I would say those two, The Lazy Man's Way to Riches is an absolute must buy. And then my tried and true book, the one that I give to everyone, I've got a stack of them right now in my office, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That book kind of started it all for me, where I realized, like, you remember when I was talking about making $30,000 a year? When I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was like, why am I settling for $30,000 a year? Like, I know I can do more. Here's a very tangible, step-by-step way to move the needle. And I haven't really done, Rich Dad Kiyosaki, he talks a lot about real estate investing. I own zero real estate outside of my house, and I don't think I ever will. The point isn't go buy real estate. He gives you a new way to think about business. And that's what kind of gave me the courage to leave my job, start my own business. And really, I've used a lot of those concepts and built them into our business here. And it's just made a profound impact. So I like Willpower Doesn't Work just because I'm reading it now. Lazy Man's Way to Riches is a book I wish I would have picked up 15 years ago. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's a book that I would recommend to anyone listening. It's just a fantastic read.
Justin, thank you for those great book recommendations. Those will be in the show notes, markberty.com/E231. Benjamin Hardy was a guest on the Breakthrough Success podcast, so we'll also link to that episode as well. That's why I remembered that he wrote that book. But before we wrap up this episode, and Content Marketing Secrets will be in the show notes too, which is my book. But before we wrap up this episode, Justin, I wonder if you could share with us one question that you believe we need to be asking ourselves more often.
Why am I doing this? That's it. That's the question.
Justin, thank you for sharing with us that great question. A lot to think about with that question, for sharing all of the great insights throughout our time together. If you guys want to check out Justin and learn more, go to Think Digital with Justin Wise podcast. That is his big project that he is working on in addition to the brand Think Digital. Justin, I can't thank you enough for sharing all of your great insights with us. It was such a pleasure to have you on Breakthrough Success.
You bet, Mark. Great interview. Good questions. Thanks, man.
How does over 100 retweets per day sound to you? My free ebook, 27 Ways to Get More Retweets on Twitter, has you covered. I use the methods within this ebook to get over 10,000 retweets every single quarter. To learn